Thank you, Jayant. My Hindi is rather bad. Hindi, so I'm going to try and English and if I could talk bad Hindi, so we'll see how it goes. Okay. So my point here is to talk about what I call understanding what we call the Himalaya Ganga. We are trying to popularize this term. Basically, it means it's one unity, Himalaya and the Ganga. You would not have the Ganga without the Himalaya. And recent scientific research has shown that it's actually Ganga that's created the Himalaya. It's very interesting. Let me digress right away to that. Recent research of geological drilling has shown something very, very interesting. The seismic Nepal had this earthquake, they would have earthquakes all over the Himalaya all the time. It's very unstable. But the drilling inside in the Tibetan plateau and in Nepal, and this, I don't understand that geology part, iridium, the radioactive material, they trace. And what they have seemed to have found is very simple. And it makes sense. What seems to happen in the Himalayan Tibetan plateau is this great, as the collision of the Indian plate took place and subducted under the Asian plate, the Himalayas rose. We all know this, okay? Now, in this process of rising, the Tibetan plateau and the Himalaya region, essentially the Himalayas are like an atmospheric barrier also. So, they almost touch the stratosphere, which means all the cloud formation is on the bottom. As the air moves, it cools and drops massive amount of water, rainfall on the Himalaya, it washes away a lot of the sediment. Okay. Now, what seems to be happening is simple in geotectonic terms, a buoyancy. the Indian plate subducts under and this keeps rising, and there's a balance. Now, what happens with the monsoon is as the monsoon hits, okay, it washes away tons and tons and tons of material every monsoon. This is a normal process. Sedimentation in the Himalaya is normal. We should first get away from the idea that it is an abnormal process, that just planting trees will get rid of it. No. If that sedimentation, geological process did not happen, and has been happening for millions of years, today Bangladesh and Bihar and West Bengal would not exist. We would have the sea there. It's thousands of feet of sediment that's made up this place. It's a very natural process, first of all. So this massive rain seems to strike the Himalaya and wash off the sediment, and in the process disturb the buoyancy. So what happens is, as more is washed off, the pressures felt underneath again come into being, and it slips again and rises again here. So this washing out of matter and then the rising of the buoyancy and the rising of the Himalaya take place simultaneously. It's a question of mass balance. Okay? So in a sense, it's the massive rains that actually create the rise of the Himalaya and also create the Ganga. Now, the reason we need to take this kind of a thing into mind, it is one big complexity. Now, to explain complexity, I will go back and tell you that, and you know it, all of you know it, but it's good to recall, that when you have a complex system functioning, if one part goes out of order, the whole system goes out of order. And I will give you a very, very Nepali example from my ethnographic friend. He's the oldest ethnographer, first ethnographer of Nepal, Harit. And he gave this talk at a conference I had organized. And he had done his ethnographic research 50 years ago in Jumla, western district of Nepal, that is very remote. Okay? Now, one interesting thing as an ethnographer he found in Jumla, a mountainous region, no roads, nothing, very poor people. But that is a region of Nepal where rice is grown at the highest altitude at 6,000 feet. Now, rice does not grow at 6,000 feet. But in Jumla, rice grows at 6,000 feet. Now, how does it happen? First of all, the growing season is very small because it's up high in the mountain, it's cold. Okay? So what they have to do, the villagers, and this is a tradition, okay, over many centuries, you have to maximize that growing season time and use it maximum for crop growth. So you cannot afford to put the rice seeds and hope the seedlings come out and transplant. There's no time for that. So what they do is they first soak the rice in a gunny sack in the river for several days. Okay. Then they bring that out and do not put it on a bed for sprouting. What they do is they make that bed for sprouting of rice seeds, inside their house, next to the kitchen, the oven. Okay. And how they do it is they put the earth, they put the seeds that has been soaked in the water for several days in the river. Okay. They put the seeds, they put branches on top of it, and they put their bedding on top of it, so that the body heat also goes down, to help germinate the seeds. This is just to maximize. And once that seedlings have come up, rice seedlings, it has to be transplanted in the field. In the process of transplanting, they need labor. Now, this is a part of Nepal where people go out and out-migrate for labor work, all over, also in India and all kinds of places. There is a tradition there, Chaitra 12, which is about March 25 or something like that, 12th of Chaitra. On 12th of Chaitra, the transplanting takes place. And if somebody who has gone outside to get a job does not come back on Chaitra 12, the family has a right to assume that he died and to do his Dar Sanskar, to do his funeral, Dar Sanskar. This is a cultural tradition that forces people, the labor, to come back and to do the plantation in time. So you see the complexity, making the bed inside the house, a tradition, getting labor back in time to do this, so that the growing season, the hot season is maximized and you can get a rice crop. Now this is complexity. If one element goes out of order, the whole thing collapses. If you don't soak the rice properly, if you don't transplant it in your house properly, and so on and so forth. If people don't come back, the labor is not there, the whole thing collapses. So when we look at the Himalaya Ganga, this is a small example from Jumla. Now expand this over the entire Himalaya Ganga, right from the top of Mount Everest to the Sundarbans in Bengal. And what we will see is that we have a tremendous diversity, obviously, but the diversity is united. It is united in a very unique and complex way. This is the amazing thing. Nepal has 124 ethnic groups, 103 languages, not dialects, languages. Of course, religion, but Hinduism, is not a religion, it is a supermarket of religions. There are so many different traditions and they are all in Nepal. Okay? So, in this massive complexity of everything being different from everything else, you find out that all these parts are linked together, right from the Sundarbans and Bengal, all the way down up to the top of Mount Everest and even beyond into Tibet. Okay. So, what strikes me is that in understanding this complexity and dealing with it and managing it, the problem has come. Where has it come? The problem has come in our attempt at modernization, that I argue is not sufficiently aware of the complexity and has not defined its interventions in a manner that takes into account the pluralism. Whether you talk of hydropower, whether you talk of irrigation, whether you talk of flood control, you talk of anything, there are aspects that one has to understand of this entire complexity, knowing or being humble enough to understand that by intervening even in a small way here, you might be setting off a chain reaction and setting off things going wrong. Now, the trouble is, engineers like me, who have been taught in some of the best universities around the world, we have been taught, interestingly, and your irrigation department, your water resource ministry and ours, they are all filled with people like me. Okay. What you have is we are trained not in water management. We are trained in cement technology. If you go to Nepal, you will see that in the hills of Nepal, at least 80% of current irrigation is still being done with what is called brushwood dams. These are not cement dams. People come towards, when the winter is just over and Chaitra, for what is called the Chaitra Dhan, the Chaitra rice, the spring rice. What they do is, they come, it's a dry season. Now the river level is very low at that time. So they come there and they divert the river by means of bamboo sticks, brushwood, mud, stones, and the water is diverted, okay, into the field. They get their second crop, the monsoon crop is there, Rabi, Harit, you know, you call all these things now, we call it Chaite, Dhan and this monsoon Dhan. Now, for this Chaite Dhan, you get the brushwood dam and the water is diverted. Once the water is diverted, the rice grows and all that, you really don't need, by the time the monsoon comes, you do not need that dam. During the monsoon, the problem is not the dam. The problem is how to get rid of the flood water. Okay. Because this is a disposable dam, traditionally built, the monsoon comes and washes it away. No problem. In the monsoon, the problem is not to bring water to the field, it is to take the water out of the field. Okay. Then comes the next season and they repeat the process. Now, what is happening in Nepal at this point, and in the hills of Nepal, and I'm sure it must be true in Sikkim, and there is a labor shortage, because these systems are dependent upon voluntary labor and community participation. I have known, and I had a student I was guiding for his master's thesis from West Nepal, who was working with the Tharus of the Tarai of Nepal in West Nepal on the Karnali River, where they call it Osri, groups of people, Osri. 3 Osris, 8 hours each, 24 hours, 3 Osris of 6,000 people each, 18,000 people get together to turn the Karnali River by this method. Okay. And they irrigate something like 24,000 hectares of land. It's a huge irrigation enterprise, you know, done totally by traditional technology. They have systems of what is called Muhan Puja and all colorful ceremonies around it and all that. That is to bring the community together. That's the whole point. How do you get 18,000 people to come together to do a common thing on a voluntary basis? So there is all these traditions that have gone there. Now, comes the monsoon, the Karnali River, you know, washes this thing away and you do. Now what is happening with modernization is, first of all, these community institutions are being eroded. Across Himalaya, across India, I know everywhere. The market pressure is such that if you go and work in the bazaar, even carrying cement or potato sacks or rice sacks, you probably earn about 200 rupees a day or whatever. Why would you spend 3 days, 5 days, you know, working voluntarily? So there is a market pressure on labor. In Nepal it is worse because, you know, we have got almost every house has at least 1 if not 2 people working in the Gulf and Malaysia and Korea. 30% of Nepal's GDP currently is from remittance. Now this is the Dutch disease impact, if anything. In economics we call it the Dutch disease impact. It's a very dangerous thing. 30% of your GDP. When tourism was at its height, when garment and carpet and pashminas were at their height, they never reached even 10%. But here remittance is all. So what the remittance is doing is, you know very well, that Nepal, you know, we basically don't have a government. We haven't had a government for a long time. Yeah, we have these things that call themselves governments, but you know, you say, yeah, okay, you're a government, okay. In a country with no government for almost the last 10 years, because we still don't have a proper constitution, you know, constitution, the current one is not going to work, you can ask me questions about it, I'll tell you why. Hardly for the reasons that Modi is saying it, but there are other reasons why this constitution will not work, okay. It's a separate story. And if there are questions, I'll answer them. In a country with practically no government, no functioning constitution, nothing, do you know that in the last 3 years, the revenue of Nepal government has increased at almost twice the growth rate of China? Average of 15%. Last year it grew at 23%. Now for a country where there is really no government, you know, how does the revenue increase by 23% or 15%? You know, to increase your revenue by even 2% or 3% is quite, it's all because of remittance. Because people send money by remittance, families buy better food, better clothes, because the salary they get in Saudi Arabia is maybe, you know, about 5 times the salary or 10 times the salary you get in Nepal, which means it's like one guy goes to work in Saudi Arabia, it's like 5 people getting a job in Nepal, in a family. Now, of course, there is some savings, but there's a lot of import of better clothes, better food, better medical health, etc. And so that import and the tax on import is what is really giving rise to this massive government revenue, leading to an arrogance in the government that we have never seen before. When the World Bank team comes to Nepal these days to the finance ministry, everybody in the, you know, every third world country, you know, they shake when the World Bank comes, oh, World Bank, you know. We had a case where an assistant secretary used the F word to send the World Bank team out. Bugger off. people's confidence. I have money, I don't need your bloody money. Okay? Now these are dynamics that's going on, that is amazing, but it's not a good thing because remittance is what it is doing is the social cost of remittance is extremely high. Now, coming to things like hydropower and all that, oh we need money because World Bank should give us money to build hydropower. Forget it. The other day, there was a call by the government to raise 2 billion rupees to build some kind of a hydropower plant from the public. It was oversubscribed by 44 billion. Too much money. You know, and we do not have a system where there are public policies that would allow people to invest their money in anything other than land and jewelry, the only secure things. There is no public policy, no socialist policy, especially under the Maoists and the socialists of Nepal, which is the big contradiction. Okay? The Maoists are more right-wing, I can come to the description. They are more right, they have turned out to be even more right-wing than the King's Party, believe me. It's an amazing contradiction in the country. But you know, there's no policy, so what happens is people are just buying land and the price of land in parts of Kathmandu is more than the price of land in New York. Yeah, New York, American. Why? Because there's too much money. Okay? I have people coming to me, you know, I have no intention of selling my house, you know, but then it's in the center part of Kathmandu. Invariably, people I've never heard of will come and say, I'm trying to sell this house, would you want to sell this house? Look at that. This is the crazy thing going on. Okay. In hydropower, this is what happened. That there's so much money that, you know, when publicly you ask for 2 billion and you get 44 billion. Now, where is our economic policy that is geared towards telling people? I will come to a couple of success stories where this was attempted, but which has not gone forward. I'll come a bit later. Now, when we talk again now the Himalaya Ganga, we come back again to this idea. There is this unity, and Nepal, there's a big debate right now, this whole federalism business and, you know, the Malaysia agitation and all that, you know. The problem is not working, it's very simple. There are more people of Madhesh origin in the mainstream parties who pass the constitution than there are leaders who lost elections and are opposed to the constitution. This is a fundamental fact. This is one big fact. The other big problem is, Nepal is extremely mixed. You can go to any village, and we have done the mathematics of every, 4,000 villages and 9 wards each in every village. And what you find out is that, people have done the extensive, demographic study. There is no way you can draw a boundary anywhere in Nepal to declare province or district that will have any one ethnic group, that is more than 30% in that place. So if you build an ethnic federalism, what will happen is that ethnic group will be no more than 30%. Most of them will be around 16%. Which means, 70 to 85% will be other. So that particular ethnic group, in whose name the federalism has been created, will never win an election. Now that is beginning to dawn on a lot of people and saying, "Humne ye kya kiya?" So now the whole constitution is stuck because of this, because they are not able to draw the boundaries. So they have declared a constitution with, 7 or whatever number of provinces, nobody believes it, but they've done it. But they have said that Namankan or Simankan, the naming of the province and the boundary of the province, will be decided later. Now, until you put the boundary name and the actual boundary, how are you going to hold the elections? So we have had 17, 18 years of no local election now. And there is no way these guys can hold even a national election. Because now you got to form the provinces first. And you don't know how to form the province. And nobody knows. So, you see, when you intervene in a system, and this is the so-called quote-unquote bad modernization example. I'll give you one more example. I was telling Jayant on the break, and this is slightly aside. I'm talking too much about Nepal, but take this example. Okay, this constitution has declared, and we are sitting in front of Mahatma Gandhi's picture with Ram in front there, okay? Now, India is a secular country declared alright, And Nepal was a Hindu kingdom, so now they say it's secular. The trouble is, all surveys show that people say even if it is republic, it should be Hindu. Because 90% of the people are Hindu Buddhist, at least 90%. But had this gone for a referendum or had asked the people, maybe that would have settled the matter. Now, doing it without asking the people has meant that now there is a backlash. Okay. So, to handle the backlash, what our great leaders did in this constitution, the one that is there right now, is they declared that Nepal is a secular country and they added a footnote. Now this is probably one of the few constitutions in the world that has a footnote. And the footnote says, the definition of secularism, I'll say it in Nepali, it makes more sense and then I will translate it. It says, Dharma niripeksha aneko sanatan dekhinko paramparako samrakshan. So Dharma niripeksha, secularism, is defined in this constitution as the protection of Sanatan tradition. This is Nepali constitution. I'm not joking. Sounds like a bad joke, and it is a bad joke. Now, how are you going to implement that constitution? Tomorrow, people will say that to protect Sanatan tradition, you should go back and reintroduce the untouchability which was banned in 1962 by King Mahendra. Because it is Sanatan tradition. That's what the constitution says. I mean, this is one example in this constitution. There's a list of mess we have, you know. Now, what I am driving at, and this is again, we go back to hydroecology, is that when you handle a complexity, you've got to be very careful. Now, I am a great believer of Karl Popper. Now, Karl Popper was a philosopher of science, you know that. Now, one of the things he said about science and the definition of science is that science is not about facts and truth, you know, according to Popper, and I agree with him. It is about being proved wrong. So if I am a good scientist, I should not be out there trying to prove my theory. I should be challenging everyone to say, this is my theory, please prove me wrong. And that theory is true as long as somebody doesn't prove it wrong. So, what Sir John Eccles, who got a Nobel Prize in Medicine, he mentions, he was part of a big debate about how nerve cells transmit information, whether it is chemical or electrical. I mean, there's a big debate, and I'm not a neuroscientist, so I can't tell you, but what I read. He mentions that it was after reading Karl Popper that he got a sense of liberation. Because till then he was part of one of these camps, you know, that it is either chemical transmission or electrical transmission, okay. He suddenly realized that after reading Popper, he said, I don't have to defend my theory till death. If somebody proves me wrong, that's very nice. You know, I am a scientist, this is my theory, please prove me wrong. And that allowed him to actually move beyond, which now proves that it is both electrical and chemical. Okay. Now, this liberating that comes from saying that, you know, being humble, not saying I am right, but saying I could be wrong, please prove me wrong. And until you prove me wrong, maybe this is my hypothesis is correct and stands. Okay? So this is where we should be moving in interventions, in development in the Himalaya with caution. You intervene only up to the point where you don't upset the whole system. And with piecemeal, what is called piecemeal engineering. You know, try a bit of reform here, try a bit of that. Something goes wrong, you step back, the whole system has not collapsed. In Nepal, what has happened is now we've collapsed the whole system. We destroyed the old and cannot build the new. Now everything is up in the air and we don't know where to begin. What do we do? So what is now happening is a lot of people are now clamoring back, including the former mayor, the most politically, the man with one of the highest integrity, together with Mr. Bandopadhyay, our former Prime Minister. These are the two guys, P.L. Singh and Mr. Bandopadhyay, who refused to enter this resurrected parliament. They were elected members and they said this, the king has no right to restore a dead parliament whose 5-year term has gone. So P.L. Singh is now leading this movement which is about restoring the 1990 constitution and holding a referendum and changing everything along as you go along. Because this one is not working. So intervening in the Himalaya Ganga, whether it is in the social system or whether it is in the environmental system, is you got to do it in steps that do not throw everything out of whack. So let me go back to water. Now we all want development. When I was in Berkeley, the International Rivers Network was being formed and I was asked to be on the board, but I said I can't be on the board for a principal reason. I agree with a lot of things you guys are doing, but I can't because I don't intend to live in America. I intend to come back to Nepal and do my work there. And when I go back to Nepal, if I take up your slogan of no dams, I will be marginalized in about 10 seconds flat. Nobody will listen to me after. So I do not accept the slogan no dams. I say no bad dams. Because we do need some good dams. because only 40% of our people have access to electricity. Lots of people don't have access to safe water, and so on and so forth. You can go on with irrigation and all. Now the question is, what is a good dam, what is a bad dam, and how do you build a good dam? Now that is part of the social discourse. Some of us are arguing that the closer you bring development decisions to the users, the better it is. And if you ask me, and this is something that we've been discussing and debating over the last, I don't know, almost a decade, I think, this whole idea of green socialism. What I'm arguing is that experience has shown us in Nepal that the moment you bring the decision about natural resource development and management down to the user level, you find out that decisions are much better. The results are more sustainable, and I will give you a couple of examples. Community forestry. We had a lot of deforestation after the nationalization of forests in the 1950s. And interestingly, this nationalization was done under the pressure of things like USAID and later the World Bank. The idea being that these Western development agencies want to push a lot of money. It's much easier to push a lot of money through one government entity than to push it through 20,000 groups. So while communities were managing their forest, it was okay. Then in the 50s, when it was nationalized, it became a tragedy of the commons. If the government has taken it, we might as well cut down the trees and use it as fast as possible before the government takes it. Okay? So that led to deforestation. Somewhere in the mid 80s, and I was part of a small part of that sort of a movement, I realized that this afforestation and planting of trees don't work. You plant and then next day all the trees are eaten by goats and that's it, that's the end of it. Okay. But if you give it back to the community and the community manages it, what they do is you don't need a fence, a barbed wire. What happens is social fencing takes place. The community makes rules that nobody goes into the forest for 3 years when the plants are going. Once the plants are about this height and the goats can't eat it, and so on and so forth, and then the forest seems to revive by itself. With bird droppings and all that carry seeds and all that. And we've got enough examples now with communities restoring forest. The net result, and you don't read this in Indian newspapers because except for Sunita Narayan's Down to Earth that had a cover story on this, I think most newspapers don't talk about. They all talk about deforestation in Himalaya. Maybe it's going on in India, that's a different issue. But in Nepal, today we have more forest cover than we ever did in our history. Barren hill slopes that when I was a schoolboy, finishing my school this thing and going to university, complete barren hills are right now completely green. Many places. And why? Because the community was given the right to manage their own forest. Okay? There are rules, there is government supervision. There are rules of how community groups should be formed, how they should be organized, how they should hold elections, not one guy can lead it all the time and all. So this is a remarkable success. When I was Minister of Water Resources, and this is one of my achievements, this is about 2002, I was bothered by the fact that electricity was under me, irrigation was not controlled. Now, in 1911, the first hydropower plant in Nepal was built, and this is after Darjeeling, is the second one in Asia. We'd like to say we are the first in Asia because what was built in Darjeeling was not built by India, it was built by the British, so it's still British, it's not Asian, okay? Now we can debate this, okay? But anyway, 1911 is a long time ago, okay? So 2011, I knew that I was talking about 2002. So 10 years hence, I said, we are going to have a 9 years hence. We are going to have the 100th anniversary, 100-year anniversary of electricity in Nepal. Now people may not say anything to normal politicians, but I am an academic, I am an engineer, electrical engineer and political economist. People will tell me, you knew, you are an expert, what did you do? Now there's little you can do as a minister, you think you can do a lot as a minister, there's not much you can do actually, But whatever you do. So I was bothered, I said, how do you accelerate the process of people getting access to electricity in villages? So it took it's a long story I can tell you, and Sunita Narayan again has got a cover story in Down to Earth, if you go back to back issue, on community electricity in Nepal. We introduced community electricity. So now I started with 18 groups that were communitized, and it was very difficult because the bureaucracy was completely opposed to it. It took me 27 drafts of the law in 6 months. And after the 16th draft only did the bureaucracy start cooperating. And that because I stopped all the foreign travels, and there's another story behind it, okay? But anyway, we passed it, 18 groups. Now there are almost 300 groups, several lakh households, which get electricity from their own community. They buy in bulk from the national grid or run their own micro hydro, but mostly they buy in bulk and retail by themselves. Now the beauty of community electricity is theft is zero. There's no theft. And that's the only reason the utility really, even tolerates it. Because in the utility, the average theft is anywhere from 33 to 60%. So they are getting a lot of profit, the utility also, because now they're getting something out of the electricity. But where the farmers are managing and the villagers are managing their own electricity, you go into these villages and you see amazing stuff. Now what you see amazing is when the utility was supplying electricity and distributing, the consumers were fatalized consumers. वो देगा, कभी load shedding होगा, तो कभी this होगा. What can we do? We pay our bills. Sometimes we do hooking and steal electricity. Well, that's how life was. Okay. The community is running these things. What they are doing is now they are replacing expensive grid electricity by cheaper micro hydro that they build themselves. And that micro hydro electricity is rationed in such a way that the local industry gets benefit. So when the grid electricity goes out, they turn on their own micro hydro and it goes to a tea processing plant. It goes to 5 small factories. This is very south of Kathmandu, the district that joined. 5 metal workers from Patan have come and set up their factory there because there is water and electricity. And it's cheaper there because the labor is right there in the village. That you don't have to house them in expensive Kathmandu. And these are bronze statue makers, the Sakyas, And all those bronze Buddha statues are exported to Mongolia and Tibet and China. Because there's a revival of religion going on in Mongolia and Tibet and all other places. So there's a huge business going. But they are coming to work in areas where there is community electricity because the electricity is reliable. Okay. And because the community is managing it, they're making money themselves. And that money is used, the profit they make from selling electricity to their own members, there is profit. They use that money to run child care center. They use it to run, community health post. They use it to subsidize their schools. They use it to give scholarships to the poorest in the village for schools. Now, this is what this you call it development or tinkering, where you have taken the development decision down to the users. So the users are its closest. When the decision was taken in Kathmandu for this thing, tariff and everything. No, now they take the decision. What is the tariff? They decide. There is a rate because you buy at a bulk from the utility. They decide where the electricity should go. Should it go to industry? Should it go to household? Which gets priority. They decide at that level. They attract industry to their village so that villagers get extra jobs. So I was quite proud of it when we initiated this because I thought to my mind that this is precisely what, in my definition, this is green socialism. But let me tell you a funny story. Then afterwards, we've gone and all these current setups over have come about. That's a different story. But at one point, what happened was this community electricity was almost shut down. They could not shut it down because there are 300 groups across Nepal with lakhs of people and households who are members. So there is a political force down there that could not be shut down. But there was an attempt to shut down by 2 political parties. And this is a funny story because I was in a village and whenever they have their anniversary, they don't do a big program in Kathmandu, they do it in a village and they do funny programs. So this time it was a funny program that I was also asked to come in a village where in Diwali, what we have in Nepali tradition is what is called Devsu Bailu. People go dancing around like in America with Halloween. They go dancing around in streets, collect money and all. So this community people went around dancing. They took me also. I never done a dancing in the street, but they raise money and they raise 10 lakh rupees in 2 nights. Okay? That money they put in a special fund because they realized that the villages that had community electricity, 5% of the people at least were so poor that they could not even wire their house. So this fund was used on a rotation basis to provide very cheap loan or even sometimes interest-free loan to the village, to the poorest villagers, just so that they could pull wire in their house for 2 light bulbs or 3 light bulbs. Okay? And this fund was used for that, and the inauguration of that fund was the anniversary present of the organization. so we had gone to inaugurate this. The minister was supposed to come, he never showed up. So the chief district officer and I had to be chief justice. Okay? Now what was interesting in that program was that it was supported by the villagers, whoever spoke, but the representative of 2 political parties opposed it, saying this is something the government should have done, this is putting the burden on the people to do it, and the people are saying we want to do it ourselves. But here are these 2 political parties, I'll tell you in a minute which ones, who are opposing it. And I said, why is this? Now one party was the Nepali Congress, Democratic Socialist. Now, why would the Democratic Socialist Party oppose community electricity when everybody in the community says we are going to do it ourselves? The other was the Maoist. Now you would have thought this is very close to Mao's idea of commune and commune development. So I am sitting there scratching my head trying to figure out why is it that these 2 political parties at 2 ends of our spectrum are opposed to it. And then I got the Brahmagyan along the way. I realized 2 things. Nepali Congress was opposing, the local leader of the Nepali Congress was opposing it because he was a shopkeeper in a village on the road down below. And his power came from the fact that his politics was patronage dispensing politics. Okay? So you vote for me and I will go to Kathmandu and bring you a present of 5 electrical poles. Next time you elect me, I put it up, third time you elect me, I'll put the wires on it. Okay? So that is called, we call it in Nepal, Koseli Vikas. Koseli means somebody goes abroad and brings you a present, but that's Koseli. So this is a gifted development. So that was the political philosophy, of patronage dispensing. This community electricity made it irrelevant. Sorry, you don't have to bring the poles, we'll bring the poles ourselves, we'll erect it and we'll run it. So Nepali Congress guy, the shopkeeper, was opposed to it. Okay. Why was the Maoist opposed to it? Because the Maoist, it really turned out, they are, for whatever they say, they are an extremely authoritarian group. And here was an organizing principle in the village that was outside their Politburo chain of command. These guys were more attracted to the community, their own community group, and would not take instructions from the Politburo. So he was opposed to that. I said, oh my God, now what kind of development have we introduced in our part of the world where a Democratic Socialist Party and a Maoist party oppose a very socialist measure? Now, Kashi, Kashmir, Azam, Nepal, we say, this is amazing in Nepal that you find these contradictions. Okay. So, I'm coming back to this whole idea of ecological, Himalaya Ganga unity, where the idea is now, it's really time to rethink development. It is time to, question and challenge, development that is not pro-people or even pro-country, and I will give you 2 more examples of this. Okay. In 2008, August, I think it was August 8, if I'm not mistaken, the Kosi breached its embankment in Nepal. D.K. Mishra, my good friend, keeps joking, saying that, इतना अच्छा हुआ कि नेपाल में breach हुआ, क्योंकि, now all international, press and paper and television, BBC, CNN, everyone is reporting. बिहार में 8 बार ऐसे breach हुआ, nobody bothers. बिहारी लोग, as he put it, कीड़े और मकोड़े जैसे मर रहा था, किसी ने लिखा भी नहीं इसका, 9 times, or 8 times as he said. So it happened in Nepal. Now, of course, 3.5 million people were displaced in Bihar, 65,000 in Nepal. Luckily, very little human life death, very little, and that is thanks to the mobile phone. Livestock died because people didn't have time to get the livestock, that remove the, whatever is that thing they have around their neck. Okay, so this is really surprising. Okay, now if that amount of dislocation, this thing happened, and no death, not really much. The funny part is, this was not a flood. Now you tell me, wait a minute, 3.5 million people are displaced, and it's not a flood. No, it's not a flood. Why? Because hydrologically, the river was exactly at 60% of the average flow for the month. If a river is at 60% only of average flow of the month, can you call it a flood? It's not a flood. So I was interviewed by India Water Portal and also by Guardian, and I said, what the real problem is, this is not a flood. So what is it? 3.5 million people displaced by water, and you are saying it's not a flood? It's simple garden variety Bihari contractor corruption. Because that particular embankment had been built without a core clay, without compaction, just balu laya or rakh diya. So the river went this thing. Now embankment technology did another thing there. Two sides of the river Kosi have been jacketed. It has provided temporary relief in the sense that people say, okay, we say. But what has happened in the Kosi between the embankment, if you look, is that the river bed, because all the silt that comes down, like I mentioned, all the matter that comes out. And don't forget, Himalayan rivers are not really rivers. They are drainage corridors. And in these drainage corridors, matter and water are co-equal passengers. As much water comes down as matter does. And matter has a right to come down that corridor as much as water has a right. So when you build embankment on two sides, eventually what happens is the matter just keeps getting deposited. And so the river bed in the Kosi, if you go to the Kosi barrage, at one point I could show you if you are with me, you stand and you get a dangerous picture. You see the embankment, Kosi barrage, you come, and on one side you see the Kosi river and you see the river bed. Other side you see the fields of towards Biratnagar, and the difference in land is something like this, 4 meters. So the Kosi is perched up there, 4 meters above. Of course it's going to breach the embankment. And I have a friend who jokes that there are only 2 types of embankment in this world, those that have breached and those that will breach. The third type does not exist. So it will breach. This is the wrong technology for us. So flood protection in the Himalaya Ganga does not mean building embankments like you build in Germany or something, because in Germany a flood means, the river increases. Here it increases by 50 centimeters and they call it a flood. For us, a normal river, the flow increases and decreases by up to 1,000 times. So we have a very, very different hydroecology. So the way to handle floods in our part of the world does not lie in civil engineering of building embankment, because you see that you are just creating a time bomb. It's a time bomb. This year, I don't know, the Kosi has not gone above 3 lakhs. 1968 it went above what, 9 lakhs. What happens if a 9 lakh cubic flood comes? The Kosi cannot even handle 3 lakhs right now. Okay? So we are waiting for a time bomb there. Okay? What we should have done is not embankment technology. We should have found solutions not in civil engineering. We should have found solution first in architecture, building house with stilts. That's what people did before. So you have a house that's built with stilts. Now you can do with cement, but previously they did with bamboos and all, no? Okay. So when the flood came, it was underneath, and for about 4 days maybe maximum there was water, but then the flood receded after 4 days, and left fertile silt behind. And every year that there was the flood, the harvest after that was bumper, because so much fertilizer came free. Okay. Now what we do is with embankment, we are not getting that, and we are not getting. With embankment, also the problem is that the rain does not only fall here where the river is. It falls outside where the embankment is also. Now that water has no way of getting back into the river now. So Bihar has lost more land for waterlogging than has come under the entire Kosi project of the last 50 years. Now, will you call this development or will you call this madness? Ramchandra Khan, who was the police inspector or something of Bihar, is retired. He has made a statement that is so true. The devastation you see in Bihar because of embankment, where more land has gone out of production, land that would give you 3 crops with no fertilizer now gives you 1 crop in Bihar, if the monsoon fails. Because if the monsoon fails, then you use that waterlogged water to grow your crop. Okay. So this is maldevelopment, this is bad development, and in the Himalaya Ganga, this is just the wrong kind of development. So what we should be doing is, and I know Jayant has already told you about this, we should really be rethinking development. Rethinking development, it does not mean glorifying tradition, you see, but it means understanding tradition and trying to modernize it to, adapt to modern conditions and modern technologies also. but without rejecting the tradition. Now in Bihar, for instance, there was, I gave you the example of this disposable dam. Ecologically very friendly. When you don't get the water, flood comes, the dam also goes, not a permanent cement structure dam. My fight with the engineers has always been, I'm an engineer myself, and they say, we need to build a permanent dam, not this brushwood dam. I say, in the Himalaya, how permanent is permanent? I can show you a 100-meter cement where in 1993 it was washed off because of a cloudburst flood, and not even a trace you can find of that 100-meter cement dam. Because the flood was so high, it just washed it off. Okay? And people had to go back to this brushwood dam to revive their irrigation system all over again. So what I am saying is not to glorify that tradition. In Bihar, you had rice variety that kept up with the flood and could grow with a stalk of up to 18 feet I am told. We have lost that rice. But nobody practices it now. They only get this improved variety rice or whatever it is, genetic modified. But this variety of rice whose stalk, grew so fast, it kept up with the flood, and 18 feet of straw, which was very valuable afterwards, but it saved the rice, So this is the kind of, the technologies that we should have. So I think what I'm arguing, and we can take questions after this now, is what I am arguing is that we need to rethink our ecology, try to understand what is the nature of our nature, and the nature of our nature is very different from the nature of nature in Europe, for instance, And we cannot wholesale import that technology that was okay in Europe to bring it here, like the environment technology, like the cement dam technology. Yes, the brushwood dam also might need improvement to make sure that the labor shortage problem is handled, by having every year you cut bamboo, you can't find bamboo, maybe cement stakes that villagers can take out afterwards and keep it at the village, and next year use it again. Simple things. A simple backhoe where you don't need 5,000 people to put up that thing. Maybe you can only do it with 100 people. If you have a simple backhoe. There are simple technologies. This piecemeal engineering that I talked about, the Karl Popper method, is exactly what we should be planning for. Looking for those crop varieties that are ecologically so adapted to our situation. Not trying to make a California agricultural system in our midst. So, building houses on stilts, where for 4 days of a year you can't use it down below, but 361 days of the year you can have cows in the bottom, or you can play ping pong down there, or use it as a garage. I don't care. You can do these things. But we have sort of given up, and then we try to build these very, very California style housing in floodplains, and we are inviting disaster. So this problem is not just a Nepal problem, it's not just a Bengal problem, it's not just a Bihar problem, it's a common problem for all of us. Which is why I am advocating, and which my pet theme, is that I define green socialism as two basic ideas that we need to merge and rethink our development, rethink our politics. Which is, first, we should, green I only use in the term that, it's not a European Green Party, but the idea is we go back to looking at our own hydroecology, trying to understand its specificities, trying to understand its extremities, so that we know how to deal with it better. At the same time, trying to look at how our ancestors, like for instance in Nepal, if you look, if you fly into Kathmandu, next time you do that, please notice one thing. All houses in hills are built on what we call the nose. You have a hill and you have ridges coming on this side. Houses are all built on ridges, because if you build a house below, that's where the maximum amount of flood is. On top of a ridge, no, the rain falls and it goes down, Whereas if you build it down below, the rain has collected into streams, and streams are big and all that, and that's where the flood occurs. So nobody builds houses and villages there. But today what we are doing, because the road has come down there in the valley, everybody, all houses are going down there. A road in the valley acts like a demographic watershed. All the people come there, they sell chai shop, they do this. Well, it's the same in India also now. Now, this is leading us to a great disaster in the future. In the sense that tomorrow, if a once in a 1,000-year flood comes, if once a rainfall like 1993 happened in Nepal, south of Kathmandu, where we had 540 millimeters of rain in literally 9 hours. That's, half a meter of rain in 9 hours. Of course, it's going to wash away bridges and everything that's on the way. There's nothing you can do about it, except tell Indra Bhagwan, don't do this here. That's all you can do. There's nothing you can do about it. But this is natural. It does not happen every year. It happens once every 10 years, all right, once every 100 years. But it could happen next year. It could happen in September. We have had those cloudbursts in September, by the way. Don't forget, 22nd September in 1982, there's a massive cloudburst south of Kathmandu. It destroyed so many houses. We don't seem to learn. Why? Because we are not turning back and looking at our own ecology. So this is my green part of it. My socialism part of it. I argue that we should go back to getting development decisions as close to the users in the cities and villages as possible. That these are not to be decided by high-flying bureaucrats and high-flying people way up there. Okay? Let that decision be taken down there. You may say, okay, but they don't have expertise. No, they have enough expertise. I will give you one example from Rajasthan, Gujarat, where we are doing groundwater study. You all know about this. When you go to the villages, the hard rock areas, this jugaad, that vehicle, it's semi-legal, okay? I always use that picture when I give lectures abroad. It's a picture of one of those jugaads. It looks like a truck, and I question people and they say it's a truck. I say, yeah, if you're taking a picture from a satellite, a CIA satellite or something, say, yeah, it's a truck. But you come down to the level of a street and ask and go and interview, you find out it's an irrigation pump. And your, that bank, NABARD or whatever, they give loans to farmers for 3 horsepower pumps. Now what farmers do is take that loan, add their wives' jewelry's price on it, and buy a 10 horsepower pump. Why? Because a 3 horsepower pump will only pump water. And that for maybe 2,000 hours a year for the growing season. Rest of the time it will rust in the go down. Okay? Whereas a 10 horsepower pump pumps water for 2,000 hours, and for 6,000 remaining hours of the year, you fit it on a chassis. It's a perfectly functioning truck. It transports goods. It earns you money. So farmers are far smarter than the economists and engineers at NABARD. They know. Okay. So if you let the decision go down to that level, they will buy the engineers that are necessary. No problem, Baba, engineers are available, you can buy them. If there's money down there, they will buy it. And already the community electricity people are hiring young engineers. Can you believe that? Nobody thought that villagers will hire electrical engineers. Well, they are hiring them. I know quite a few young engineers, they are enjoying working at that level. And you talk to these young engineers working in community electricity, and you can see the confidence that they have, because they have actually worked with the people and they know that their work has actually benefited the people. And there is no professional satisfaction that is much better, that warms your heart, than being in a position where I say I did something and it helps somebody directly. Okay. So this is where I talk about green socialism. First, looking at our hydroecology and coming to terms with it, understanding it better, not trying to import technologies that work somewhere else and transplanting it doesn't work. And then looking at our own society and letting our society at the lowest unit of users and groups and villagers decide their own development decisions. And we engineers, we economists and others should be there trying to help the villagers take that decision. That's what we are supposed to do. They do the deciding, they ask us questions, we use our knowledge and say, listen, okay, Brushwood Dam is fine, but why don't you use a cement stake and keep that cement? I mean, we can give our own solutions. Yeah. So this is where I think the Himalaya Ganga, that whole thing all the way from Sundarbans in Bengal right to the top of Mount Everest and Tibet, in Nepal and Tibet, we need a rethinking of development, and we need a rethinking of the politics that would allow such a development to happen. Right now, unfortunately, like I said, if you question me, I'll get into detail. Parties that call themselves socialist and parties that call themselves Maoist or Marxist have turned out to be more right-wing, and in terms of development, more liberal, quote-unquote, market-oriented, than even the royal regime in Nepal in the past. Now, what do you do with this? How do you handle this contradiction? In the Parliament of Nepal, parties were allowed to, they nominate. There's, half are elected, half not half, 40% elected, 60 are nominated. There's some crazy formula they have. Okay. Guess what? The Nepali Congress, the United Marxist-Leninists, UML, and the Maoists, guess whom they nominated? They nominated the crown princes of all the big business houses that do this commission trade. import-export. They did not nominate teachers. They did not nominate social workers to the parliament. They nominated. Why? Because those guys paid 40 crores for their seats. To the Maoists, to the UML, to the Marxist parties, to the Nepali Congress. And this is where the problem is right now. There was a great case the other day of Rajya Lakshmi Golcha. She's the daughter-in-law of that big industrialist Golcha, big business house Golcha. And I think the party, I think it was UML or Maoist, I forget which one of the parties, I've given up trying to even understand. They had an order that all the MPs should come and she didn't come. So they wanted to do an action against her. She said, I paid 40 crores, how can you take action against me? I earned my seat because I paid for it. It's like going to a cinema and getting a dress circle or a balcony seat, man. I paid for it. And it was all in the papers, Now, coming from a left-wing party, that, this statement comes out, and they put your hand on your head and say, bhai, kya kare? So this is where we are right now. And I think I'll close with this and, we can have a discussion.
Thank you very much, Deepak, for going into so much.